The assassination attempt on Saturday that left President Trump wounded and retired Fire Chief Corey Campitora fatally wounded as he protected his wife and daughter from the gunfire has raised many questions about the protection the Secret Service provided the former president and now Republican nominee. Some claim the agency, under its present leadership, has lost sight of its mission. Joining me now to discuss this is Tim Miller, founder and president of Lionheart International Services Group. He's been in law enforcement and military for over 30 years, and he was a Secret Service special agent assigned to the Washington field office, coordinating all aspects of security for the president, vice president, and foreign heads of states on a regular basis. Tim, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks, Tony. It's an honor to be with you.
Well, thank you, sir. I just want to first get your first reaction when you learned of the assassination attempt on Saturday.
Well, I think for all of us, it's kind of a watershed moment where you are in disbelief. Initially, the reports came out, as you know, that he had been shot. Thank God, by his grace, he was only wounded. And, it obviously for all of us in the Secret Service was a shockwave, because those are the things that you never want to hear as a Secret Service agent, that a president of the United States or former has been targeted for assassination and almost killed.
Similar to law enforcement, but this is unique. You practice, you train, you prepare for something you hope never comes. And there's many mundane days in which it doesn't happen. There's nothing. And it's difficult to stay focused on mission. This is a very difficult job because, last president, President Ronald Reagan, over 1981, I think it was. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it's a big deal. So how does the agency stay prepared for this, stay focused on their mission, and have they become distracted?
Well, Tony, I certainly think they have become distracted, and there's a number of reasons for that. But to answer your question, you got to have the brightest and the best protecting the president of the United States. And that means that you're hiring people that are motivated, that are committed, that are skilled, that are highly skilled, because what will end up happening inevitably, it happened with me, when you're in a campaign season, you go from one site to the next site to the next site. And this is where the failure occurred in this case. The Secret Service relies exceptionally heavily on the site advance agents. They're the ones that walk every square foot of a potential site, and they make sure that everything from where the bleachers are to where the bathrooms are to where would we go if we had to get out of there quick. But most importantly, we're looking at the threat landscape. And the threat landscape doesn't just include rifles, it's bombs, vehicles, people. What would you do if? Well, one of the first things you start with as a site agent, and we learned this in November 1963, where are the high places where someone with a rifle could shoot and kill the president? And unfortunately, the biggest thing that we look at from day one was missed.
There's been a lot of concern about the focus of the current director, the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion versus, as you pointed out, the best and the brightest to accomplish the mission of the agency. Is that a fair criticism?
Well, I certainly think it's a fair criticism. And let me say this. I've been a Marine like you, Semper Fi. I've been a police officer. I've been a Secret Service agent. And in each of these careers, I've worked right next to highly qualified, disciplined, committed females who did a fantastic job. But in this case, now all of a sudden it's, oh no, it's not just about hiring qualified females. It's about, we're going to take 1/3 of the Secret Service and make it this particular group. Well, that's a recipe for formula. That means that guys out of the special operations communities or gals out of highly qualifying Army, military, police units, that they're not being evaluated. They're actually saying, oh, well, you're this particular group, so come on in. And I think that will compromise the mission. Tony, it's not just the Secret Service. You look at what's going on with the FBI, you look across the government landscape, there are a lot of problems and challenges. And it starts with saying, we're not going to hire the brightest and the best. We're only going to hire XXX group.
Well, Tim, I think you're absolutely right. It is pervasive across the federal government, not just the federal government, but we're seeing it at state government as well. But I was just talking with Congressman Andy Biggs about our military. We just happen to see this on full display with the Secret Service, knowing what their mission is, how mission critical it is. But we're not seeing what's happening in the military that are operating under these same kind of the same woke ideology.
No, I totally agree, Tony. And the military's maybe the most concerning, because if you put people in harm's way that are not qualified, not committed, not sharing a belief that our country's worth fighting and dying for, that puts the whole country in jeopardy. And I think that's where what we saw play out on Saturday night is the greatest indicator that we have a problem that we're refusing to look in the eye and deal with. And that's going to lead to nothing but danger and destruction down the road.
All right, Tim, maybe next week we can follow up with you after the hearing and kind of get your analysis on what the director, Ms. Cheadle, has to say to Congress.
Tony, anytime you call, I'm there.